We know so many of you are anxious to get the lights back on, and especially the air conditioning, as Houston is expected to heat back up.
Tonight, KHOU 11 Investigates is asking tough questions of Centerpoint, and you may not like the answers. Jeremy Rogalski is live in Timber Grove with what he's learned. Jeremy.
Yeah, guys, just a couple of hours ago, Centerpoint released a press release saying 10,000 out-of-town crews have been, quote, mobilized. But we wanted to know, why weren't those crews, as in past hurricanes, already here, pre-staged, before Beryl came rolling through? In the Timber Grove neighborhood, it's deja vu all over again.
I'm sure everyone in Houston wants to know when power is going to be restored. It's affecting businesses, it's affecting families.
During the mid-May derecho, the power was out for 3 days, and now?
Well, it is frustrating, but at the same time, it's, nobody knows what these storms are going to do.
The answer is there is no answer yet from Centerpoint.
It's really too early to get more specific with our restoration timeline.
A Centerpoint spokesperson tells us that's because the vast majority of the 10,000 out-of-town repair crews haven't even arrived in Houston. And so we asked,
all of those resources have not made it to the Houston area yet.
why weren't they here ahead of the storm?
I don't have that specific information.
That has been the case in other storms, has it not?
I believe that we've staged beforehand. In this case, we had our requested resources and we knew that they were ready to respond. However, they were not already in the area prior to Hurricane Beryl hitting.
Tell that to this family with 2 daughters, the youngest 4 months old.
I think they could have planned for it better. I think we all knew that a storm was potentially going to affect our area.
And that's a little frustrating. I mean, obviously you don't see any of them here right now.
And when I pressed that Centerpoint spokesperson on why the company did not request outside help earlier, the spokesperson told me, quote, Beryl made more of an impact to our area than many believed was going to happen. Of course, Beryl was forecasted as a Cat 1 storm and came ashore as a Cat 1. Reporting live in Timber Grove, Jeremy Rogalski, KHOU 11 Investigates.
Team coverage for you, starting with the question, could Centerpoint have been better prepared?
Now, we first reported yesterday how the company did not stage mutual aid repair crews in Houston before Hurricane Beryl. Now, investigative reporter Jeremy Rogalski is learning more about their response and joins us live. Jeremy?
Well, the questions hovering over the 1.5 million powerless Centerpoint customers are these. Was the electricity provider slow out of the gate in its restoration efforts? And now, is it playing catch-up? Hours before Beryl battered the state, Texans were assured
Centerpoint is ready to go.
But we've since learned that, unlike in past hurricanes, Centerpoint did not position out-of-town crews in Houston before the storm, so they could immediately hit the ground once the hurricane moved through.
Outside help really has gotten out of the gate a half day late.
While they were not in Houston, they were in nearby locations.
Where were those nearby locations?
Jeremy, again, factual information that I can look into and get back to you on that.
And what about the number of outside workers Centerpoint requested and when? A spokesperson says pre-Beryl, the company initially asked for 2,500, but after Beryl hit, Centerpoint upped that request for a total of nearly 12,000.
Did Centerpoint underestimate the need for the amount of personnel to get this job done and done quickly?
Again, I think what the case was is we relied on information that we had at the time. And so we appropriately prepared for what we felt the event would be.
At a midday briefing, Acting Governor Dan Patrick said the threat from Beryl was clear, and he'll request a full report of where outside crews were stationed and when they were asked to come in.
What do you pledge to do once the dust has settled to ensure that Centerpoint is held accountable?
Right now, Jeremy, if they made mistakes, we don't know if they did or not. If they made mistakes beforehand, then that will be addressed by the PUC. That's their job, and by the state legislature.
The PUC, of course, is the Public Utility Commission of Texas, which has regulatory oversight over Centerpoint. Meanwhile, listen to this. Just over the past 2 hours, Centerpoint has given 3 conflicting numbers as to how many mutual aid workers are actually in Houston. The manager of local government relations said 12,000 linemen are in the field. The Vice President of Regulatory Policy said 7,500, and the Director of Communications and Writing told us 5,300 outside workers. The real number, Mia, we just don't know.
We know you'll continue to look for those numbers, though. Jeremy Rogalski holding the powers that be accountable tonight. Thank you.
Power is an absolute major inconvenience.
To say the least, but it can be a matter of life or death for people who rely on medical equipment powered by electricity. Investigative reporter Cheryl Mercedes is here now with more on the medically vulnerable. Cheryl.
Hey, Mia. Harris County has the most power-dependent people in the state with more than 23,000. That's according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Medicare data. Now, that includes people who are on oxygen tanks, wheelchairs, and ventilators. KHOU 11 Investigates looked at Harris County to see where the most power-dependent people live. And the top 3 zip codes are in Katy, Spring, and down here in Baytown. That's where people really depend on power to survive. And that's where people have been without power for at least 3 days now. Some states like Louisiana use this data to pinpoint where emergency shelters open during hurricanes and to decide where power should be restored first. But not in Texas. The Public Utility Commission of Texas told us they leave that up to the individual utility providers. Last year, CenterPoint told us it does not use Medicare data to identify the location of customers who rely on electricity-dependent medical equipment. Now, CenterPoint says it encourages those customers to apply for critical care residential customer status. That's with the Public Utility Commission. Sounds like a lot, right? Well, right here on the PUC's website, you can find the PDF. Go to page 2. Simple one-page form to fill out. It takes about a couple of weeks to process. There's also the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry, or STEER. Also an easy sheet, much shorter actually, to fill out and turn in. You can do it online or mail it in. But neither program guarantees the lights will stay on. If you live in Harris County right now and you have not signed up for these services, you don't have to wait. You have another option. Just dial 211 and the county will send someone to you to do a wellness check or take you somewhere cool if that's what you need. Mia.
I have to take care of everyone, especially those with medical needs. Cheryl Mercedes, thank you. Meanwhile, CenterPoint has 18 staging areas for out-of-town crews. Viewers tell us they've driven by them and asked us why so many trucks were parked and not out in the field doing repair work. So the KHOU 11 Investigates team did some surveillance work today. Here's Jeremy Rogalski.
We had eyes on 3 staging areas. Our photojournalist was up in Tomball. I was across from the Katy ISD football stadiums, and we spoke with an out-of-state line worker who was stationed in Galveston. It's 8 in the morning at this Katy staging site, and we picked 3 random trucks to keep an eye on. This green tree trimming truck and these 2 white bucket trucks. Down in Galveston, we checked in with our lineman who asked not to be identified. How long have you been on the clock?
6 a.m.
It was almost 9 a.m. when we talked.
Now we're sitting in a parking lot.
Sitting and waiting?
Correct.
Waiting for his work orders. An hour and a half later, he texted, still nothing. And an hour after that, we got work now. Meanwhile, up in Tomball, we tracked how many trucks left this staging site over 3 hours. 21 the first hour, 30 the next hour, and 22 the third.
67.
The parking lot still had plenty of trucks when we left. And back in Katy, just past 11, and our 2 trucks are still here. Those white trucks didn't take off until 11:33. And as for that green tree trimming rig, our tree trimming truck's still there, and it is just after noon. It would be another 26 minutes before it took off, and by the time it made it to the job site, the first tree branch was cut at 1:18 in the afternoon. Darren Carroll is CenterPoint's Senior Vice President of Operations. Viewers are saying, I see all these trucks, but wonder why are they in this parking lot and not out in the field?
It's a fair question. Totally empathize with customers thinking that and wondering that. What I will tell you is that safety is at the forefront of everything that we do.
Carroll said external crews must undergo safety briefings and other logistical preparations, and that takes time. Should it take 4 or 5 hours to get these guys moving and doing the work they were hired to do?
It's not something that happens in every case, and we don't know the exact circumstances of why that may have happened, right? So I don't want to speak to that as though it's the norm.
CenterPoint's vice president adds that all outside crews are now in place and getting workers on the road should go quicker from here on out. Back to you.
We'll pick it up from here. Jeremy Rogalski, thank you. CenterPoint has repeatedly said clearing so many downed trees has been a challenge in getting the power back on. But what has the company done for preventative tree maintenance? Jeremy Rogalski and the KHOU 11 Investigates team found out how much it spends on that, and you may not like what you hear. Jeremy?
Mia, it's known as a vegetation management plan in the industry, and after Hurricane Ike back in 2008, Texas passed a law requiring companies to file one annually. Well, records show compared to some other companies last year, CenterPoint didn't spend much.
The cleanup work continues at Araceli Arazzolo's house. She's been through her share of big storms here over the past 10 years.
And I've seen crews come out here to trim the trees along the power lines maybe one time.
Just once?
Yeah.
A few doors away, Judith Scott calls the idea of CenterPoint tree maintenance
fantasy, because I haven't ever seen them do that.
You don't have to look far in this neighborhood to see trees and branches surrounding power lines, and by now, we all know what can happen when that's the case. It's why Texas lawmakers passed a law after Hurricane Ike that requires electricity providers to report how much they spend on vegetation management per customer every year. Here's the breakdown for Houston area providers last year. Energy spent $62 per customer. Texas New Mexico Power spent just over $30. CenterPoint spent just over $16 per customer, and AEP Texas about $10 per customer.
It would be very interesting to see their spreadsheets and to see where the funds do go.
These CenterPoint customers say they pay their bills every month and deserve much better in return.
We're mad. We want our power. We want to feel safe in our homes. We want to know that we can survive a storm and the providers are going to be helping us, and it's not happening.
Now, I reached out to CenterPoint for comment twice today by email and text, once before 2 o'clock and later just before 5. I have not heard back. Mia?
Jeremy, such important reporting in the wake of the extended outages. Thank you. Sure.